welcome to episode 2 of the third season of the 98% Life After Prison. Our podcast is dedicated to the nearly 98% of incarcerated individuals in North Carolina who will eventually be released back into our communities, often with little more than the clothes on their backs and a $45 check in their pocket. I am April Barber Scales.
And I'm Judy Van Wyk. And today we're going to explore the intersection between mental illness and incarceration. Because there's such a shortage of community-based mental health care, our nation's jails and prisons have become a dumping ground for people suffering with mental illness. According to NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, nearly 40% of people in prison have a history of mental illness. The numbers are even higher in county jails where there's seldom access to treatment.
Last season, we did a show about a health care program that serves formerly incarcerated people with a chronic condition. The program is called FIT, formerly incarcerated in transition. FIT hires people who are themselves just as involved to connect clients to services and build trust between the client and the healthcare provider. Today, we are focusing on a FIT program designed specifically for formerly incarcerated people with severe mental illness. This is called FIT Wellness.
Fully 1/4 of incarcerated people in North Carolina are receiving some kind of treatment for serious mental illness. Anthony Farrar was one of those people. 2 years ago, Anthony found himself in Central Prison in Raleigh with a heart condition after living on the streets. While there, he connected with FIT Wellness and finally received the treatment he needed to turn his life around. Here's Anthony's story. Can you tell me just a little bit about how old you are and just a little bit about who you are?
I'm a person that is really family oriented. I'm very, very family bound and love everything about that. But, before that I was, drug addict, homeless, and with nobody. So now I'm all about my family. That's my definition of me, is when somebody asks me that, I said, I'm just all about family, being a dad, being a father, and being a grandson, a son. So that's very important to me, and I'm able to have that back now.
You have it back. What was happening before? Can you describe what happened?
Well, I was married before with my daughter's mother, and I fell back on drugs and criminal activity after, we split up, and I distanced myself from my family, because they all knew that I wasn't doing well, but they tried a lot to get me back into the right ways and trying to get my life back together for me, but I was never ready to do that.
So tell me just briefly about your childhood and when you first started doing drugs.
Okay. My childhood was, a white picket fence. My mom and dad were divorced when I was younger, but I had a great house. I had everything I needed. I dove into cars a lot. Like, I started building cars. I became a mechanic. And when I got married to my first wife, we lost our son at birth. And that was the first time. On top of that, I was in a motorcycle accident a month before that and almost lost my leg. So I was on pain medicine. And then after we lost my son, then I really dove into drugs, and that was when I first started. It was probably when I was 22. What it did to me was lying, cheating, stealing. It really gave me a disconnect from my family. I'm the only addict in my family, so they didn't know how to handle it, and neither did I. I tried doing AA meetings and NA meetings. That really wasn't working for me. And I never realized that I had a chemical imbalance that was really causing the drug addict mentality, because I was trying to make up for what I was missing somewhere. And I would never admit that. I'm 36 now, so it took me 15, 20 years to finally admit that I needed help or wasn't afraid to ask for help.
It's scary, right?
You're telling me. Again, I just grew up with the white picket fence. You go to school, you go to college, you get a job, and you have kids and have a family. And I completely veered off from that path already. So it was really weird for me to feel like I was going to be accepted because of the lack of effort that I put into certain things, and the more effort I put into bad things. It was very, very strange.
And then you get lost.
Oh, very much so lost. The worst when I was in Winston was probably the worst I've ever been, but I put myself down there on purpose. I don't know why I thought it would be a great idea to be homeless and a drug addict, but I was truly lost. And for the first time in my life, my family came to see me, to try to find me. I was under a bridge, and they were trying to find me. And the despair in their eyes put a hole right through me. It really brought tears to me because I never wanted my family to worry, and didn't realize that not hearing from me, know if I was going to be dead or not, is what really started to change my idea of what I needed to do in my life.
I understand you're in the Fit Wellness program. Have you been diagnosed with a mental illness?
Yeah, I was diagnosed with severe anxiety and depression, and also ADHD. And they took their time. They tried different medicines. They were very, very vigilant about making sure I had the right dosage. They listened to me, and they didn't think I was drug seeking. And that was a weird thing for me not to understand, because every time I've been anywhere before that, it always felt like they were labeling me as a drug seeker. They wouldn't take me very serious. But the FIT program, man, they came back to my jail cell every other day to see how the pills were working, if we need to make any adjustments, and what else is going to work for you, what are you feeling. And they gave me the ability to actually say how I was feeling without feeling like I was less of a man, to admit defeat. And they made me feel like a human being, and I haven't felt like that in a long time.
Just tell us briefly again the story of how you got to Central and how you met Dr. Zarzar.
Okay. Well, when they picked me up, I had an episode where I passed out in the prison, or in a county jail. And then they took me to the hospital, ran some tests, found out I had endocarditis on my heart, and had to do 8 weeks of antibiotics. So they did video court when I was in the hospital, and that's when they sentenced me to 120 days in prison. They were going to send me up to Raleigh, Central Prison in Raleigh, and because they have a full hospital there. Well, as I'm going there in Central Prison, they're giving me my antibiotics and everything, and mental health came around a couple of times, every couple of days, and I never acknowledged it. I'm like, no, I'm fine. And then Dr. Zarzar came, and I just broke down and said, look, man, yes, I need some help. I'm seeing and hearing things that I don't believe are real. And he said, okay, we just came, and he talked to me for 30 minutes after that. That was the first interaction I had with him. That after that evening, I had some medicine that he thought would help. So he came back around 3 days after that and said, hey, how's medicine working? And I was honest with him, and he made some adjustments. And, we kept doing that for a couple of weeks at Central Prison. And then right before I left, he said, he came into my jail cell and said, hey, I don't know what you got going on outside of prison, but I would like for you to, or like me to be your primary care. We have a doctor, life coaches, the peer support specialist, and his therapist. And I said, yeah, man, that'd be great. Me and my mother talked about doing that when I got out, but you got to think you have a doctor at one place, a therapist at another place, and then all that. But we got it all wrapped into one, which was the best thing about the whole thing. It didn't take me any time, and it just happened. All that stuff at one place that's the best thing that I've gotten out of this program so far, is to have all that stuff readily accessible right there.
When you look back on your life as a child and growing up and in your teenage years, do you see how you suffered from anxiety and depression in the past? Absolutely.
That was one of the things that really hit me. I think back all these years, because I've accomplished more in 6 months than I have my entire life. This 6 months where I've been mentally healthy and everything, it really does. And even when my mom, my father, my dad, all my friends talk to me and say, "You don't even sound like the same person." I said, "I'm not. Thanks to Dr. Zarzar and Dr. Whiteside and Sean, that I'm not the same person. I'm actually a good father. I'm very involved with my daughter and everything, all the extracurriculars that we have going on, all the stuff that she has going on. I've never been this involved, even though she's my daughter. I never felt as involved as I do now. And I love that. I mean, that's one of the best things that Dr. Zarzar gave me, was the ability to have people trust me again, and the ability to have a great mental standpoint and be able to be the father, son, and grandson that I could be.
Since getting into the Fit Wellness program, Anthony's been able to find work that he enjoys, and he just moved into his own apartment. He's a very lucky man. It makes you really think twice when you see homeless people on the streets. Like Anthony, most of those folks are suffering from the double whammy of mental illness and substance use disorder, medicating themselves in an effort to dull the pain and trauma that they're living with.
And many of them end up in county jails, where they're warehoused until they are found fit for trial. I've witnessed this throughout my years of incarceration, as well as working at Freedom House. I work with people that are in recovery from mental health and substance use disorder. Often I've seen that the reason they ended up incarcerated is because they've used some sort of substance to dull their pain and to get away from their mental health issues.
And that must be just such a hard cycle to break.
It really is. It takes a lot of time, therapy, and often medication.
Next, we're going to hear from the man who initiated the Fit Wellness program. Dr. Ted Zarzar teamed up with Evan Ashkin of Fit in 2022 to offer psychiatric care for people coming out of prison. What started as a pilot program in Wake County was recently awarded a $5 million grant from the state to expand to Durham, Orange, and New Hanover counties. Let's hear how Fit Wellness got its start.
I split my time between community psychiatric work and doing work within the state prison system. Going through training, I never anticipated that I would be doing that. I didn't, frankly, think much at the time about jails and prisons. It wasn't really on my mind, but I did have this interest in taking care of people with severe mental illness. So things like schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar disorder. I spent the first 3 years after my training at the state hospital, at Central Regional Hospital in Butner. And then I transitioned in 2013 to working at a place called Wakebrook in Raleigh, which was a community psychiatric hospital that UNC ran for about a decade. And in 2016, I started working a half day a week at the state prison system. UNC had entered into a contractual agreement with the prison system to provide psychiatric services to incarcerated people. And I was asked if I wanted to join, and I said, sure. I wasn't quite sure what I was getting into at the time, but once I got there, it was pretty clear that, A, I enjoyed it, and B, those were the types of people that I wanted to work with. So people with severe mental illness, you don't quite realize the magnitude of mental illness and the number of people with mental illness in the prison system until you get in there and see what it's like. A full 40% or so, it's estimated, of people in state prisons have some sort of mental health diagnosis. This doesn't include substance use disorders, which probably 2/3 to 3/4 have some sort of substance use disorder. So it's a pretty high magnitude of people within the prison system having some sort of mental health problem. So I was doing that work a half day a week, and I enjoyed it, and it turned into 2 half days a week, and then 3, and then eventually it became half of my time. And again, the other half of my time was still spent at Wakebrook. And what was interesting and sad was that at Wakebrook, I would see people who were coming out of incarceration, jail or prison, and, they had just been released. They maybe had their meds, but oftentimes did not have whatever medications they were supposed to be on. They may have had a follow-up appointment scheduled and didn't make it, or they may not have had a follow-up appointment scheduled, and so they didn't have one. And where they came was to our crisis center, often in crisis, saying that they needed help, and often they ended up hospitalized. I'm split between the community and prison, and it sort of made sense to me to try to utilize that to my advantage and say, well, why don't we try to have this clinic for people coming out of prison, these folks that I was seeing in the emergency area in the crisis unit? What if we had a clinic, or we had folks coming out of incarceration referred to my clinic, see if we can try to improve their health outcomes? I called Dr. Ashkin, who I had known and who I knew ran the FIT program. And he also was working with people with mental illness and trying to get people with mental illness connected to that type of care. The two of us brainstormed about how best to do this, and we came up with this FIT wellness model, which is what I'm doing now.
When you say severe mental illness, what are we talking about? What defines that?
It's not the easiest thing to define, and part of me, I don't like the terms serious mental illness or severe mental illness, because they almost imply that others are not serious or not severe. But and a lot of people say SMI for short, so I may use that acronym. They're generally the illnesses that are more disabling or more dysfunctional than others, and we think of SMI as things with a psychotic or psychotic spectrum illnesses, or illnesses that have psychotic symptoms. And when I say psychosis or psychotic, it's a symptom where there's some sort of loss of contact with reality. It may be delusional thinking, so believing things that are not true, so fixed false beliefs. It may be perceptual disturbances, hearing things or seeing things other people aren't hearing or seeing. It may be disorganization of thought or behavior. Those are generally considered psychotic symptoms. And the illnesses that encompass those would be things like schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder. Oftentimes people with bipolar disorder, type 1, the more severe type of bipolar disorder, will have some sort of psychotic symptoms. And even severe depression can be associated with psychotic symptoms. So there's a variety of psychiatric illnesses associated with that. And we focus on the folks with psychotic illnesses in part because you have symptoms that are amenable to treatment with antipsychotic medications. And people with psychotic illnesses, when they go untreated, oftentimes, again, can be quite disabling and quite dysfunctional. When they get on medicines, oftentimes, I know the medicines aren't perfect, but oftentimes, you can see quite a bit of improvement. And so those are the ones we tend to focus on as far as our clinic is concerned.
How is FIT Wellness sort of incorporated into the FIT program?
So FIT Wellness is this branch of the FIT program which focuses on people with an SMI diagnosis. We received a 2-year pilot grant from the state to start this. And the basic idea was that we would retain the core aspects of the FIT program, which are to have the community health worker be the core component and core person kind of helping to navigate things. We would retain the primary care aspect, obviously. But what we were adding was this idea of continuity of psychiatric care. And we do have an eligibility specialist, so someone who can help get people enrolled with Medicaid or if they qualify for other government benefits like SSI or SSDI, can assist with that. So we try to provide comprehensive reentry planning. It's not just about making sure someone has psychiatric medicines or physical health medicines. Those are certainly important, but we also have to make sure people get their housing needs met, their food needs met, clothing needs met, etc., because they're not going to be successful if they don't have those other things.
They need stability in order to be able to get better.
Absolutely, yeah. We wanted a warm handoff. So I would meet with them before they were released from prison to establish some sort of face-to-face connection. Anytime there's a transition point, be it from community to jail, jail to prison, or prison back to community, that's where things often fall apart, or things get missed, or people fall through the cracks, etc. So we wanted a warm handoff. We think that that improves the odds that they show up to that first appointment. Because that's, again, it's a very critical period of time, those first few days, the first couple of weeks after release. And if we miss someone in that first week, the odds of us being able to connect with them again are often pretty slim. I don't even know where to begin with the patient's stories. Just today, this morning, I was in clinic. I saw a gentleman who was incarcerated for 14 years. He spent 8 or 9 of those years in solitary confinement. He is someone I actually had met in the prison on the inpatient psychiatric unit. He was not well at the time, would get quite agitated, have quite severe mood swings, can be aggressive at times, reported hallucinations, etc. Eventually, he was stabilized on medications. I believe he remained in solitary confinement for some time and may have even been released from that type of environment. I do believe with his in-reach visit, if memory serves, we had to do it by phone because they weren't able to bring him to a room or to do a video call. And I saw him today. He's been with us since September 2022. He was one of our first referrals. And, at first, I recall it was a rough start for him. He actually needed a brief hospitalization to just sort of, in part, get away from all the stressors going on the outside. But currently, for the last few months, he has been working at Wendy's and doing pretty well in that regard. He has a roof over his head. He's in a relationship. I know it just sounds basic, right? But like for someone with that level of incarceration history and confinement to be able to then transition and has not been reincarcerated in the prison system, for me is quite remarkable. Coming from incarceration where there's a very set routine and you're around sort of the same people all the time, perhaps, to just getting out into the world, it can be quite anxiety provoking. And so to see people kind of slowly recover from that and, reconnect with their families and start to find work and things like that has been really remarkable to see.
Is there anything else that you want to say about the Fit Wellness program or anything working with this population? Anything that I haven't asked that you think is important?
I want to give kudos to our community health workers because none of this would be possible without them. So I'll mention them by name. Sean Baker is our primary Fit Wellness community health worker. We have Jennifer Wade, who is our team lead community health worker, and Dwight Walker, who's a community health worker with the main Wake Fit team. None of this would be possible without their support. Sean, for example, is, he's calling people, texting people, reminding people of their appointments, offering to get people Uber rides. running out to pick up medicines for folks, any number of things, and just providing basic therapeutic support. And the level of trust between Sean and his clients is really strong. You can imagine there's a lot of mistrust among people who are incarcerated with the health system, and our community health workers who have this lived experience are very much able to connect with folks. So I think that's all. I just wanted to say thanks to them.
That was a really good interview. Fit wellness is very much needed. I'm not a participant of Fit Wellness, but I am a member of Fit. When I was released from incarceration, I didn't have the proper medicine that I needed to treat my MS. And had I not been connected with Fit, I would have been stuck with the same drug that stopped its purpose years ago. And I don't know exactly what condition I would be in had I been using the same drug and not been connected with the doctor that I needed.
That's really important. That's made such a difference for you. And if you combine the physical health care with psychiatric care, people with mental illness need both.
They do.
They really do.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. And Fit Wellness is, the only program of its kind in the country. That's because they combine psychiatric care with primary health care and social services all in one location. And when they do that, they provide the stability and the support for people who are otherwise just dropped off from prison and often become homeless. I just can't help but think what a difference it would make if this kind of program were replicated and funded nationwide.
Yes, I agree. Dr. Zarzar talked about Sean Baker in his interview. Sean is the lead community health worker in the Fit Wellness program. And like all Fit community health workers, Sean is formerly incarcerated. Listening to him, we'll learn why he's part of the secret sauce that makes Fit Wellness so effective.
I got my peer support certification in 22, and I wanted to become more involved with reentry, with the community, and just helping people. I always had a passion for helping individuals. I walked into Fit Wellness last year, and it was a pilot program. And I had one of my guys, Darrell Clayton, he said, listen, go in wholeheartedly and do what you do, and everything will work in your benefit. That's what I did. Able to work right beside Dr. Zarzar, a great guy. I was able to learn from him, learn from Jennifer Wade, who was the lead community health worker at the time, and was able to implement some things and, make the program work. And it's been beautiful. And since then we have, we got a $5 million grant, which has been a great thing.
So describe how Fit Wellness works.
We get the referrals from prison, and Dr. Zarzar, he looks at the individuals. We set up an in-reach, which we normally try to set those in-reaches up in between a month to 2 weeks prior to them getting out. They'll say, hey, the program sounds interesting. I like to, get involved. And we'll set them up a clinic date immediately. So as soon as they get out, within their first 24 to 48 hours, I try to reach them and give them a cell phone. This is from the FIT program. This is to help you get connected to the community, stay connected to your family. And also, this is the basic means in today's society, a cell phone. Already doing an in-reach, I have like some basic needs, some basic understanding as far as what the client actually wants when they return into the community. So I have a jump start on some things, or jump start on some resources to kind of match to what they want. So in the clinic day, I'm like, hey, how you doing? I found some housing resources. I found some job resources. Hey, you say you want to crochet. Listen, we have a program, set up on Thursdays within the clinic where you can come in and learn how to crochet. Okay, you say you want to learn how to cook. Hey, I found a class for you cooking. It's all about the clients and what they want to do and what can help them be successful as far as in their return back into society. And we meet all those needs. And we just love on them. We show them that, you know, it is a way, it is hope. Me, myself, I'm a living example. And a lot of times I don't disclose, hey, I've been incarcerated. Only times I might disclose that information is when, you know, my clients might be going through it. Or it might be the first clinical day. It could be a month from then. But whenever it arrives, I'm like, hey, hold on. I too experienced this. You know, this is what worked for me, but also I'm finna help you because I understand. And that's when the attitude shift. Okay, I got help. I have a model before me. If you can do it, I can do it.
So when you say you love on them,
yes,
why is that so important?
A lot of times dealing with the population of incarceration is so harsh. A lot of people's minds shift. They feel like they're forgotten. They feel like they overlooked. And that can really wear on the soul, you know. And just to have someone before you that cares, it means a lot. And, you know, we can polish up diamonds, we can polish up gold, we can polish cars. You know, you can polish up your favorite glasses. But why can't we polish up people? You know, and when we start to polish up on people, you know, they start shining in a different way. We have fit recovery, and we also have fit wellness. Now you're dealing with fit wellness. Now we're surrounding the population that has, you know, severe mental health disorders, chronic illnesses, and substance abuse issue, which can be very tough, you know. And when you're dealing with that population, it's a lot of moving parts, you know. It's definitely a lot of moving parts. You know, every hand is on deck with the population. There can be times whereas in, you know, just with fit wellness, I could be in the community dealing with one client and the population is so needy, have someone come in the office, hey, we have somebody in the office, you know, to see you, Sean. I'm like, hey, Dwight, can you handle that for me? So everybody is pretty much fit wellness in Wake County.
So it's really a team effort.
It's a great team effort, yes. It's a great team effort. And these programs wouldn't be successful without teams.
While you were in prison, do you remember people who were severely mentally ill in prison?
Yes, I do.
Can you talk about that?
Wow. Being undereducated, going into prison, and it was the first time that I was really around individuals that had, you know, mental health disorders. And you really don't understand it, you know. Hey, I got to go to med call. And they go to med call once, twice, 3 times a day. And you have the guards to treat the individuals as such.
How did the guards treat people with mental illness?
Not fair. It wasn't fair because they haven't been educated. Just being ignorant to mental health disorders and everything that comes with it. They're just ignorant to it, you know, mistreatment. Guys that might miss the med call and now they have an outburst and you're not understanding the outburst. So you got people snickering, laughing, and in the midst of it, you might have a loud outburst and now you have guards coming and now he being carted off to the hole. But, you know, no one is really understanding as far as what's going on. And it took for me a while because I'm so curious and I observe people. And it took me probably 2-3 years and some mentors to help me understand the sickness that it was actually around. They might talk a little louder. Their moves might be a little bit different from what yours is. But for the guy that don't have no understanding, or the guard that don't have no understanding, I got to deal with him a little bit more stronger, because all I've been taught is corrections. All I've been taught is punishment. I haven't been taught to care. But it definitely need to be more education surrounding mental health within the prison system. And it need to be more sound programs put in place inside the prison system to actually help these individuals.
Why is it so important to have formerly incarcerated people? You sort of answered this, but to have someone like you, someone who's been there, someone who's experienced what it's like for mentally ill people to be in prison, why is it so important to have you work with FIT?
Because we build a bridge. If you could paint a picture of a prison, and you have on the other side, you have a bridge, and you have on the other side of the bridge, you have housing, you have medical, you have jobs. The community health work is the bridge, and the client is actually walking over that bridge. A lot of people that's having mental health disorders, or even, wrestling with substance abuse issues, it's a lot of mistrust, especially in the medical field, and mistrusting people in general, because they've been mishandled for quite some time. And, just showing up, continue to show up for them. Even when they done frustrated and made you mad, you still got to show up. Now it's becoming, it's okay, we're here for a job, but the passion is greater than that. So we got to show up for them. We have a nice percentile of individuals that's being released into the community that's homeless. And one thing that we deal with a lot is individuals just being dropped off at the courthouse, dropped off at the library, or just dropped off at our clinic and having nowhere to go. This is my day-in-day battle, when the ball is actually dropped and we have to pick it up. But overall, we have to do better at, getting these resources out there. This community and population is touching each other. People say, well, it don't affect me. Yeah. Every issue, every problem of the world, every population, every person is touching one another in some type of way.
I love listening to Sean. He's so committed and compassionate. It's no wonder he's able to win the trust of people who have completely lost faith in a society that's completely failed them.
Yeah, I love Sean's interview also. Sean and I have worked on a couple of projects together, and I can tell you that he is a wonderful man. He is very genuine.
Yeah, I can imagine he is. He just comes across as such a sweetheart.
He really is. Well, that's our show for today. Join us next time when we hear a frank discussion between a father and son and about what it was like growing up without a father because he was serving a life sentence.
If you'd like to reach out to us, you can email us at 98%.lifeafter@gmail.com. Again, that's 98%.lifeafter@gmail.com. We hope you like the show, and we'll tell your friends to tune in to the 98% Life After Prison.
Until next time.